The Clear Lake City Council of Monday, August 7th, 2023 shall come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dana, seconded by Mike, that we approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. To the consent agenda, you have a copy of the minutes of July 17th, 2023. We don't need approval of the bill. Oh, we do need the approval of the bills and claims, of which you have a copy, but we do not have any license and permits this evening. Motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Bennett, seconded by Gary, that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Now is the time and place for anyone in the audience, citizen in the audience, who wishes to speak to the council on any issue that is not on the agenda. Please approach the podium, state your name first and last, and give your address so the clerk can properly enter in the minutes. This is not a discussion time nor a question and answer time, but it is an opportunity for you to speak to the council. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Knutson. I live at 513 South 8th Street. I lived on South 8th Street for about 7 years. And I live between 4th and the 12th, the bait shop, and it is a very heavily trafficked road. We get a lot of semi-traffic. It's a byway pass, and a lot of speeding, a lot of noise. It's a straightaway, so it really encourages people to fly down the roadway. And I know everyone thinks everyone speeds on their road, but I think it's kind of a well-known fact that that's kind of a cut through from north to south of town. Instead of griping about it, I walked the neighborhood and I circulated a petition, kind of an informal one, of everyone that lives on South 8th between those streets and maybe one house in. And I've heard a lot of horror stories about near misses, people trying to pull in and out of their driveway and they can't do it. Clear Lake PD has been very attentive towards us whenever we ask for a trailer. They do it, and it does bring the speed down. The problem is, as soon as the trailer is gone, the speed goes right back up again. My proposal is possibly getting new speed limit signs, the ones that light up. And they are solar powered. And basically, if someone goes over the speed limit, it flashes. I think it would give us some relief. It's pretty cost effective. I looked online and they're about $4,300. So I'm hoping that maybe we could get two, or you guys could at least consider that, just to give the people on South 8th a little relief. We can't stop the semi-traffic. We can't stop the trucks and everything else. But maybe we can get some relief with some extra enhanced reminders. Plus, we also have a lot of RV traffic that goes down the road, I think, to the RV parks. So anyway, I haven't, if you have any questions, I can answer that. I know you guys are on a time schedule, but I'd like to submit my little petition here. Okay.
Thank you. Council will
Okay.
take this under advisement, and Jennifer will accept your petition. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak to the council tonight on anything that is not on the agenda? Thank you. We'll move along to unfinished business, of which we have none. We'll move directly to 6A, new business. Review of Bash at the Lake event held on July 29th of 2023. Review, Star Benjamin, Mike Eichman, and Brad Barber. Welcome.
Well, I got to say that what a day that was. We had expectations of what we'd like to have seen, and we certainly exceeded them. And a lot of thanks goes out to a lot of different people. But the Clear Lake City Council, thank you for working flexibly with Bash at the Lake planning team. I appreciate your willingness to learn more about and consider our mission, vision, and goals. Specifically, would like to share gratitude about the outstanding collaboration between the Chamber, law enforcement, city parks, fire, and EMS. It was amazing. It's evident that they're a well put together team. So the Chamber, I can't do it without saying Stacy's knowledge and experience was invaluable. The Chamber staff as a whole was a huge contributor to the success of this event. One of the things we were kind of joking about was the experience of knowing what works and what doesn't work is really nice to hear on the front side rather than learning it after the fact. So I think we avoided a lot of issues we may have encountered based on their experience and their input. So it was nice having the Chamber embedded in the very beginning. Law enforcement, the experience Mike Colby shared multiple times throughout the planning was incredible. His willingness to attend multiple meetings and walk through the event from the setup on Friday night all the way through tear down on Saturday night. We knew what the expectations were. They knew what was expected of us, and we knew what was expected of law enforcement. And we feel as though it went very seamlessly. City Park, what can I say? What a great venue. Jim Jackson was very easy to work with and very accommodating. The Bash at the Lake planning team appreciated knowing the expectations, what they were ahead of time, and all the way related to the setup the night before and the tear down after the event. We went into it with open eyes and we knew what the expectations were. Fire and EMS, I was amazed by the support of the fire and EMS. Having a truck on site for Bash at the Lake was a huge attraction for the children. I was impressed with EMS's willingness to be on site for the entire day. It was greatly appreciated with all the littles and the inflatables and everything like that. And again, to you, the council, you guys set the tone. So it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you. I think the biggest win for this event for the community is we all develop new relationships, fruitful relationships, from the businesses working together to the nonprofits working together, working with the city council and the team members that work for the city council, the chamber. You know, we can all work together, which is lovely to see, you know, and it did exceed all our expectations. And all it was it began with the class, with the chamber, with our United to Serve class, just facilitating a meeting for them to be able to figure out a little bit more of why in the world they're even on this earth. And what can they do to add significance and value, not only to themselves, but for one another. And that is actually done by serving, loving, and caring for one another. So we digged a little deep there, and then at lunch, we break them up into these smaller groups, and a couple of them said, we need a more family-friendly event in downtown Clear Lake. And then 2 weeks later, I went to see my friend that owns a Chick-fil-A over in Rochester, and he was down Mason City. We swapped bags. We swapped cabin coffee bags for Chick-fil-A bags and took all kinds of pictures. And on the way back from there, Sherry was with me. I said, you know what? We just need to have a good old-fashioned revival in downtown Clear Lake. And that's all it took. Called a few people up. Stacy with the chamber, Cindy with Bash on the Farm, with Star, my partner in United to Serve. And actually, I'll never forget the day we were here in the city. And I was sharing, I think it was, I believe it was Creighton, that I pushed this piece of paper to him and was talking about it and talking about Chick-fil-A coming. And he asked me, he said, well, Brad, are they going to have their lemonade here? And he said, you know, we're going to take care of this. So anyway, it was just a great event. And, you know, that's what United to Serve is about. It's about bringing churches together, businesses together, nonprofits, not seeing what we have divided, but what we can do to pour into one another. And this is the event that this happened. I mean, we had 5 or 6 businesses come together within 3 days of the idea. And they were all on board, and we met every Thursday, and it happened. And so I'm forever grateful. So, you know, I think the thing about it is whatever we can do, we need to have hope and faith that there is still a lot of good out in this world. And we need to focus on that. Forget about the insecurities. Forget about the barriers. What can we really accomplish? And, you know, we can't do it alone. It shows that we all need one another. And we all have our shortcomings. We all have our insecurities, our anxiety. But it just shows we need one another. We needed you for this event, and you guys knocked it out of the park for us. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am and thankful for this city council and our chamber for being proactive and pro-business and pouring into people and coming up with solutions. So anyway, we're going to make it happen again next year. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps we can change one word in that, and we'll go United We Serve.
There you go.
So,
Do you guys have any questions?
yeah,
Yeah,
my next
any questions
comment. Dana, do you have anything, or?
I do not. I had asked the Chick-fil-A folks as they closed up their shop, and the young man said they sold about 760 chicken sandwiches, grossed about $20,000, so it was a good day for them as well.
You know what? Their sales beat the whatever Wisconsin country gig, that lack of a better word, you know, event that they have up there. They exceeded what they did in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, Brad, to you and your team, and like I say, all the partners that you worked with. Just a fabulous example of collaboration. What a great event for Clear Lake.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, look forward to seeing this happen again next year. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Gary?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Clay would say it, our pleasure.
I thought it was really neat when I didn't get there until Go Fish was going.
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. And the numbers and the excitement of the children down there on that concrete in front of the stage was really enlightening, you know, just to see the smiles and the jumping around and the singing and all of that. Yeah, great event.
Well,
Great event.
you know what, I need back, thank you for bringing that up, Mayor, because, you know, there's a huge part in this, and I think it's probably the most impactful, is this regional vacation Bible school we had. There are a lot of people that came to that, a lot of kids that came to that, and they were able to learn all those Go Fish songs that whole week. And in fact, they thought the concert was at the dock. We had to let a few parents and kids know that, because it seemed like a concert there. But then they got to meet all the, you know, they got to see Go Fish in concert there. And so again, it's one of those things, you know, we have to create these really positive opportunities for our community to be able to feel safe and secure and fulfilled, and provides opportunities for our children, to understand that, there's a lot of love out there. And I'm going to get a little, and honest to goodness, it's, what Chris was sharing up there with Adeline at the, during the event. That young lady, 5 years old, has a relationship with Christ, and she has hope. And so there's more to this world than just right here. And it's about honoring God and honoring Christ, and then loving and caring for other people. And so then they had several people come up to Chris after that for other parents that were suffering through that, kind of that similar thing. So they were able to network with Chris and Morgan and Adeline. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mayor, because the Sunday school was huge.
Mike?
Yeah.
Just another fabulous way to shine a light on the best town in Iowa. Thank you.
Amen, brother. Thank you.
Well put, Mike.
I was just going to mention, appreciate the collaboration with One Vision on that, and hopefully you can get a few other people in the dunk tank next year.
Well, yeah.
I think Dana was such a great sport on that. The chief was there, and the water was a lot warmer. I followed him, and for some reason the water was a lot warmer after he got it. I didn't look too closely, but Dana is such a practical joker. He followed me later in the afternoon in there, and the first person that dunked him, he must have been thinking of it all night. So Dana goes down in the dunk tank, and
Yeah.
for those of you that didn't see it, this guy, he pops up with one of these big squirt guns, and whoever put him in got blasted. I think they got more water on them than he did going in the dunk tank, but it was good fun.
That was my father I squirted.
Well, and that's another thing, One Vision partnered with us on that. It wouldn't have been as good without them. So that had to do with Stacy. So I'm telling you, I did about that much work, and everybody else did all this work in collaboration. And I don't know how in the world we pulled it off in 11 weeks or 12 weeks, but Titan Pro, awesome company. I mean, they had, I don't know, how many people did you have working on this event? 15? 20? Okay, many. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. One last thing, and Beth Ann and I talked about this. If you go back, I'm stealing your thunder here, Mike, but if you go back in history, and especially what Paul Jewell has written about some of the history of Clear Lake, this is kind of a facsimile of the Chautauqua when they would come to town about this time of the year on train and unload down there by Mars Hill, and then the whole Mars Hill area would be, I think, according to the pictures that Paul put in there, tents, where it was a whole week or weekend or quite a time in there that they did that. So here we are back again in history. So well done. Let's move on. 6B, presentation from the North Iowa Children's Museum. Review, Lorena, North Iowa Children's Museum. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us. It's a great opportunity to present an update of the North Iowa Children's Museum, and we're excited to share our vision with you. Does it work best just to tell you to? Okay, sounds good. So I'd like to start by introducing our board of directors. With me I have Janice Hand and Rachel Blomkis. They'll be speaking soon. Ellen Pritchard Sedlock is also here. Erin Dedor, Christy Preby, Lisa Roth are not able to attend tonight, but this is the doers. We incorporated as a nonprofit in August of 2021, and we received our 501c3 tax-exempt status last summer. So we've spent this last year really meeting with key community stakeholders and participating in organizing community events. So before I get into our vision, I'd like to share this short video with you. It's 3 minutes, and it's the Discovery Children's Museum in Las Vegas, and it really does a nice job of illustrating all that a children's museum encompasses. And sometimes it can be hard to visualize what a children's museum is if you've never been to one, but this is a great video.
We know museums can be fun for the whole family, but if you've got little ones who love hands-on discovery, a museum created especially for them might be the ideal place to spark imagination.
Discovery Children's Museum is a nonprofit organization. We've been here in the community for 29 years, and we're very proud to be a hub of this community. Discovery Children's Museum is one of the largest children's museums in the country. We have 26,000 square feet of hands-on exhibits and play activities for children. All of our exhibits incorporate STEAM learning into their exhibits so that kids are learning as they're playing. So on the first floor, we start in Toddler Town, our area for little learners aged birth through 5. Adjacent to Toddler Town is our Fantasy Festival area where kids are learning about stage production, theater, and acting, and we also have a full-size pirate ship and castle where kids can play. In Waterworld, kids get to put on their raincoats and splash around, but they're learning about the force of water, and it powers our cities. We have an actual mini Hoover Dam, and there are lessons here about our most precious resource, water. So the Discovery Lab is our newest addition at the Discovery Children's Museum. It opened in February of 2019, and we're so proud of this space because it's the first public maker space of its kind. We are offering no-tech to high-tech ways that children can learn here in the Discovery Lab. So Discovery Lab is on the second floor, which is the same floor as our Eco City. I love the Eco City because it's teaching children about working a job and earning a paycheck. We have a cafe, there's the Children's Hospital, they're helping to build the Raiders Stadium here in Las Vegas, and of course the grocery store, one of the most popular features here at Discovery Children's Museum. It's a very collaborative way of children learning and working and playing together. So the third floor has our Young at Art exhibit, where children are learning for the first time about line, perspective, visual thinking, texture, and patents pending is our area for our youngest inventors. Here they get to design inventions, build a car, test it out, see if their design is flight-worthy, earthquake-proof, you name it. We want kids to make a mistake, figure it out, and solve the problem that they want to solve. So our staff are one of the most engaged staffs at any children's museum I've ever seen. They're all educators. They are here to work with you and your child and to help them learn. One of our strongest partnerships at Discovery is with the Clark County School District. We welcome hundreds of Title I school children and other field trips here to the museum every year, and we take our programs into the community, both into the schools and throughout our valley. So our activities at Discovery Children's Museum change every day, and the best way to learn about those are to visit our website at discoveryKidsLV.org.
Children's museums are becoming a
What
We
did
know
you love?
museums can be fun for the whole family, but if you've got little ones who love hands-on discovery, a museum created
Wouldn't you love to have that here? We are so excited, and it's our dream to create a similar experience here, to create an indoor destination for learning and exploration with hands-on experiential exhibits that spark a love of learning, curiosity, exploration, and wonder, similar to what you saw in this video. We worked with Berglund and Cram to create some renderings of what could be in our children's museum. As a board, we think it's really important that the exhibits reflect back the culture of our community. So this one focuses on agriculture. Here, they could have an interactive grain bin, climb aboard tractor, market. You saw that was a favorite in the video, the grocery store. And while they're playing, they're learning about food production, biology, agronomy, economics, engineering, and they're doing all of this with gross motor engagement, imaginative, and dramatic play. This is another one done by Berglund and Cram, Woodford Island Adventure. Here, kids can discover the ecology of the area with an emphasis on conservation. So again, they would get that gross motor engagement, play with a climber in the treehouse, maybe a sensory experience going through the marshes and the weeds. And these are all just ideas. It's really determined on who our major donors are and feedback from the community what they want these exhibits to be, but it's helpful to see what could be. These are pictures taken from other children's museums. Clear Lake has such a rich music history. We would love to have a music maker's room and work with the surf ballroom. There will likely be a car center and construction zone. These type of exhibits really allow kids to see themselves in future professions. The Wonder Lab or STEAM room, that's the top left picture, that's really science focused. So there's a wind tube wall, a magnetic wall, water, bubbles. It's really science integrated. And then the last kind of crowd favorite is a water table. And I'd love to tie in Lady of the Lake and have a paddle wheel on our water table. This is the Children's Museum of Indianapolis. It's the largest in the world. And the most frequent question I get when I talk about this Children's Museum or when we do a community event is, where is this going to be? Or where is it? They think it already exists. So I would love to see the North Iowa Children's Museum at a downtown location in Clear Lake. There are many benefits to having a museum downtown, and most successful children's museums have a city partnership in some capacity. This is an example of what could go inside the Children's Museum, and I just want to focus on two of them. One, the rotating exhibits, and second, the rental space. So there are companies that create, install exhibits. We can have them from 1 month to a year. We just rent them and they set them up. But this would allow locals to keep coming back and be interested to come see what's new at the Children's Museum. It wouldn't just be for tourists. It'd keep the locals coming back. And then the second, is the rental space. We've heard a lot that parents are looking, where do we have a birthday party? Or in services for teachers, different businesses want a space to meet. In some of the meetings with stakeholders, they want to have their holiday parties at the museum for adults. So that rental space is key. So why Clear Lake? The blue star is us, and all the purple circles are other children's museums. I've learned that most families are willing to drive 50 miles for one way for a day trip, and then after that, the likelihood of them coming severely diminishes. So there are no other children's museums within a 40-mile radius, and the nearest one is about 80 miles away. We're really in this gray zone, so we would not compete with another children's museum. Clear Lake has so many, it's a tourist destination. There's over 350,000 annual visitors. And although it's a small town, there are so many big city offerings. As you know, there's the surf, the art center, Central Gardens, and so bringing a children's museum would just enhance the existing nonprofits in the area and bring in more visitors and more revenue for all. So we have over $600,000 committed of this $5 million project. And there is much more community support than what has been formally committed, but they are not willing to formally commit and make that donation until a location is determined. But it's just been said many times that these businesses and families want to keep their money here in Clear Lake. So Stacy Don was planning to talk about the economic and tourist impact, but she can't make it tonight, so Rachel Wumkus is going to read her remarks for us.
Well,
Mayor, Clear Lake Council members, I am pleased to have been invited to share on behalf of the Chamber regarding the positive impact establishing a children's museum will have on Clear Lake. From a purely economic standpoint, research shows the average museum visitor will spend $23 beyond the cost of admission at nearby restaurants and retailers. With 30,000 projected visitors per year, that's a minimum $1 million economic impact every year, which I feel is a very conservative estimate. The museum is sure to increase tourist spending and lengthen stays, particularly during the off-season. This means more dollars infused into our local businesses, benefiting our entire community year-round. Beyond the positive economic impact on tourism, it's also an amenity that will be utilized by residents and attractive to potential residents, making Clear Lake an even more attractive place to live. A children's museum will also elevate the quality of life for our residents, making Clear Lake a more desirable place to call home. Such a cultural and educational hub will not only foster a love for learning and exploration among our children, but also will create an inviting space for families to bond and grow together. A children's museum would also provide a haven for families on those gloomy, rainy, or snowy days. By supporting the creation of this children's museum, we are investing in the future of Clear Lake, creating a robust and well-rounded community that not only flourishes economically, but also thrives culturally and socially. The museum will become a treasured asset for our residents while simultaneously bolstering our appeal as an attractive destination for tourists and potential new residents. Thank you. Am I next?
So, I don't have a lot to add to this. The video showed a lot of what's offered educationally in a museum, but we just had talked about how currently it's a luxury for kids in North Iowa to get to go to a children's museum, and many don't ever get to go. So, and with the learning that happens there, it shouldn't be a luxury. It should be an essential thing that kids get to visit through their experiences there. There's research that shows it impacts their learning and makes them lifelong learners, which that's what we're trying to promote here in Clear Lake. Play and learning, people believe that a children's museum might just be a place you go when you have a great day playing, but playing and learning go hand in hand, they're intertwined. You might think of it as, a science. You go, you listen to a lecture, and then you go to the lab and you practice what you've learned. So that's how you can look at learning for young children. And specifically early childhood, when you look at, that's birth through age 8, they learn primarily through hands-on and play. And even after age 8, up to age 12, that's how we kind of see this museum playing out for ages up through age 12. They still learn better by hands-on, not worksheets, not listening to a teacher lecture. Yes, that stuff's important too, but getting to explore themselves is where the real learning happens. Play promotes the development of a multitude of skills. If we think just of cognitive skills and think of babies through age 8, they're learning to concentrate, their problem solving, their thinking just through playing, and many others, developing memory. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But when we say play, you might think, well, you can go anywhere and play. You can have a playroom in your house. You can open up a toy box and say play. It's more of that environment needs to be rich and planned play. It's not just, here are some toys that have batteries in them, now go play. Those have their place, but that's not what a museum offers. So let me see here. The other unique characteristic that a museum offers is the learning is intergenerational. You get to learn, kids that get to go there their parents don't drop them off. It's a place parents or grandparents go with them. They don't sit along the side on a chair or a bench. They're learning alongside them, or they're actually learning with them, or they're posing questions, or they're learning from their child or their grandchild, something that they didn't know. As you see up there, play is the highest form of research. That's a quote by Albert Einstein, and that is so true. And the type of learning that would happen at a children's museum isn't something that is duplicated in a school setting or at it just goes hand in hand. They work together. So I was an early childhood teacher for Clear Lake for years. And if you know anything about the grant that the state of Iowa has for early childhood, so all 4-year-olds can go to preschool for free. It's mandated in the curriculum that you have to use, if you get the grant from the state of Iowa, that you have 60 minutes of uninterrupted play in your classroom curriculum every day for those 4-year-olds. That's how important play is for kids. But you can't create this type of play in your classroom. And good teachers try really hard, but we would die for a museum to take your kids to. And we've talked about that as a board. We could see daycares coming to our museum, 4-year-old preschools, 3 and 4-year-old preschools bringing the kids to the museum. Clear Lake has taken trips to Minneapolis or to St. Paul for 2nd grade, 4th grade to go to museums because that's just not around here. So we would see school districts around here coming to Clear Lake for those type of activities. I think that's, oh, and so the other thing, ultimately we want kids to learn and expand their learning. So besides the target audience, there could be after-school programs that kids could come to. We want to make sure all kids get the opportunity to come to the museum, not just people coming to Clear Lake to visit or kids who get those opportunities. We want all kids to have those opportunities.
one more time. So our board has worked hard to be active and involved in the community. Getting our name out and meeting with families who will benefit from this project is key to our success. We were able to see many families last summer. We attended 4 separate Thursdays on Main nights, which included a sensory night, a sink and float demonstration, magnetic experiments, and a repeat night of what the kids had as a favorite. This year we have plans to be at Thursdays on Main on the back to school night, which is August 17th. We hosted over 300 individuals at the 2022 Wind Discovery fundraiser. We held this prior to Color the Wind. We held it at the Zion Dock facility, and we had teachers come and read to the students from the school. We had a kite project that kids could do, and then they had the wind tunnel, so they learned about wind before they went and watched the kites in the wind. Last September, we held our first When Pigs Fly fundraiser out at Plain Old Pumpkins. Small foam pigs were dropped from an airplane out of the sky and landed on a target, and whichever landed the closest, we had donations from area businesses of gift cards, and we bundled those. And the 3 closest pigs got the 3 bundles of gift cards, which we have this year scheduled the end of September. September 30th is our next When Pigs Fly event. We were at the Green Expo the last 2 years, which is a great opportunity to chat with many different people. Kids who stopped by received a coloring sheet and heart-shaped crayons that we had recycled from broken ones. That was my children's favorite activity when we went through the crayon box and they had to tear all the paper off the crayons. We also planted sunflowers with about 50 children in the Lakeview room. We kicked off the farmers market one year with kids could put dirt into a cup and plant a tomato seed, and we partnered with the Art Center for that. And this spring, we were able, thanks to the help of the city, be part of the first ever Meet a Machine event held at the Wellness Center. This was a spectacular joint effort that brought giant machinery from all over the region to the parking lot. There were food trucks, inflatables, and games on hand as well. A big highlight was when the Mercy helicopter landed on there, as you can see in the bottom corner, landed on the school grounds. That was kind of a big deal that day. And finally, we were privileged to be a part of the first ever Bash at the Lake, held in City Park. With 4 small exhibits in tow, kids were able to touch, feel, build, and play in our area. And a big hit was the spin art, where they got to pour paint into the spin art machine and create masterpieces on paper plates. Oh, okay, yes, next slide. The future of our being out into the community is we have acquired, with a very generous donation, this trailer. So we have also purchased some larger exhibits that we can put in the trailer, and when we go to events while we are in the process of finding a location and building a location, we can be out in the community. We can also go to other communities in North Iowa and be part of their events and have cool stuff in our trailer. So.
Have any questions or comments? Anything we could elaborate on?
Yeah, I'll start out, and then I'm going to open it up to the council people for they to ask questions if they have any, and comments, if that's okay. All right. What are your, this is a huge project.
Yes.
Huge. 5 million you're stating here. I believe that's correct. What part of that 5 million is endowment?
So originally, $3 million would be endowment and $2 million for exhibits. Lately, the last couple of weeks, I've been interviewing exhibit companies, and like everything, inflation has struck exhibit companies. So what I thought was about $200, $250 per square foot is now $350 per square foot. So probably more for the actual exhibits if they're going to be this true awe-inspiring environment.
And you presently believe that you have 600,000 in hand, or that's
100,000 committed. We have
committed.
over 100,000 in cash, but 600,000 has been committed.
okay? I'm being random here as I wrote my notes when you guys were going through, so I apologize for that to begin with. I don't want no names, but How many board members do you have, and who do they represent?
We have 7 board members. They represent, well, previously the public school, the chamber, the city, Clear Lake Bank and Trust, University of Iowa, and Pritchard's. Did I leave anyone out?
And cross-section, male, female, et cetera, et
It's
cetera?
a female board of 7 of us, but we are all in different ages and stages, and I think we really bring a unique blend of experiences to the table.
Someone mentioned the ages 8 to 12, that this is most appropriate for?
0 to 12.
0.
Yeah, there were 2 different groups she talked.
All right, 2 different groups, all right. So up to middle school, junior high?
Yes.
Would be appropriate to
Yes.
attend. In the map that you put up with the circles around and the 60 miles is the closest any of those are to Clear Lake. My eyes told me they aren't that good at this point in time, but those were mostly quite large cities that had circles around them, that had a children's museum. My question is, what smaller cities, census says that we have 7,600 people here. I don't think that's true. I think we have a lot more. But anyway, we don't even come close to any of those. Are there other small towns like Clear Lake that have children's museums?
So Fergus Falls, they are a town of 14,000, and they started small with a small children's museum, and it's been so successful that they have expanded. When I look at Clear Lake, it's so unique because of the tourist destination, with 350,000 annual visitors, and I would include all of the Mason City population. Really, all of Cerro Gordo County would be 42,000 that I would see using this often, and then take into account the tourist population as well. So we're projecting about 30,000 annual visitors. And that number is because the surf ballroom, they have about 18,000 annual visitors, and we think we could easily double that. People will come just for the Children's Museum, in addition to all the tourists that are already here.
Will there be an admission? How do I get in?
Yes, I have a full pro forma budget. I can pass that out after the meeting if you'd like, but right now we have budgeted about $10 for admission. Most children's museum, it's free if you are less than 1, and then $10 if you're over 1, and then usually there's a senior discount, military discount, those kind of things. For families that can't afford that, other children's museums do free days. I love the idea of a pie day, so on March 14th, maybe we'd have a free day, or Janice mentioned having school groups come. There's the opportunities with that. Others have, if you can show a SNAP card or something like that, then you would be eligible to attend. But we want this to be all-inclusive for everyone.
Will this be operated by this board? Will it be operated by city people?
No, so we are our own entity. It would be operated by the North Iowa Children's Museum, which is a 501c3 tax-exempt entity.
And such that it's sustainable?
Yes.
Will that go back then to those who are contributing to the actual building of it again? Because certainly memberships won't keep it going ad infinitum, will it? I mean,
So if we had an endowment, we could spend on the interest of the endowment. That I should have put up my pro forma budget, and then grants and admissions. And so I'm projecting about a 30,000 annual revenue.
location.
We'd love to be here in Clear Lake. Downtown location would be best. A lot of support for that. Many of the supporters are behind me, and they want their money to stay here in Clear Lake.
Square, do you have any idea of square footage, size, all on one floor, 2 floors, 3 floors?
So my dream would be a 2-floor building, 20,000 square feet. Research shows 10,000 square feet of exhibit. So half of the exhibit space, the total building, half of it should be for exhibits, and the other half is considered kind of backroom operations. So that would allow for that rental room, offices, boiler room, restrooms, nursing room, all of that kind of is the rest of it. But 10,000 square feet for true exhibit space.
Dana, any questions?
Stories, it just really
Sorry.
allows for a, that awe-inspiring master exhibit. So it's a place of wonder when the kids walk in and can have it.
Dana?
If I had a bunch of time, I'd have a bunch more questions, I'm sure, and I will have a bunch more going forward. You've asked quite a few. You have a wish list. Where do you see the city coming alongside you in this project?
So I would love the city to build the building, the brick and mortar piece of the building, and rent it to the nonprofit. So the city would own and maintain the structure, and the nonprofit would fund the inside of it and maintain all operations.
Okay.
Bennett?
Yes, thank you for the presentation, Lorena. Very good presentation. Thank you also to your compatriots for joining in that. You had mentioned a moment ago about the involvement or potential involvement of people from Mason City and the county. So my one question would be, is your vision for this project kind of a regional one?
I think regional people will attend it, yes. Is that what your question is? We've had donations from Mason City. I think it was called North Iowa Children's Museum. I think they take ownership of it as well.
Right, that's kind of my point. You're calling it the North Iowa Children's Museum, and it sounds like from the demographics you described, your vision for it is to be a regional center.
Yes.
Okay.
But because Clear Lake is the tourist destination, I think it fits best here.
Sure, you'd like it to be here.
Yes.
Right, thank you very much.
Gary?
I have no questions this time, but somewhere down the road, I'm going to have a lot.
Michael?
About all I've got to offer is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 years ago. My wife and I took 2 of our grandkids from Omaha to the Omaha Children's Museum. Anybody in the room been there besides? Yeah. It was pretty neat. So yeah, these things do definitely have some draw for the younger set, and even Grandpa and Grandma enjoyed it. So that was pretty good too. But it sounds like a very ambitious project. I applaud you and your group for all the background and effort you put into getting it to this point. The only question I would ask is, what would you see your timeline for this to be? I mean, what would I guess hope for in terms of from now till when would it maybe happen?
I would love to see doors open 3 years from today. So I've been interviewing exhibit companies that do design, fabrication, installation. Their timeline is 2.5 years. And we need time here to decide where it's going to be. And
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Any other comments? Council? As Bennett said, thank you, all of you, for the research that you've done, the work that you've done, presentation tonight. And it's going to be a long, fun road. And, a very, very interesting project to bring to this town.
present.
Always an opportunity. That's what we're about. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on to 6C, City Hall Administrative Side Security and Remodeling Project. Intro, Mr. Flory. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. make sure my leg wasn't falling asleep up there. I was tripped coming down here. So as Nelson introduced, this is the City Hall administrative side security upgrade remodeling project. I think everyone's well aware that the council had allocated funding for a remodeling and security upgrade project here for our office building here for the fiscal year 24 municipal budget. So we've been studying how we would undertake a significant security upgrade and remodeling project on the administrative side. Everyone's aware, a number of years ago, we went through a significant upgrade over on the police department side. So not much was really done on the administrative side at that time other than some carpet and paint mostly. At that time. So we've been working with Berglund and Cram as the consultant on this project. We've gone through a number of iterations on schematic and preliminary design to get to where we are today, which is what we want to share with the council this evening. Review the proposed preliminary design that we have selected that we think would be the best model that would fit our needs here going forward. Scott Smead's the architect on the project. He's going to review, again, that preliminary design with you, the cost estimate, and the schedule for the project. We would just kind of at this point be estimating that we'd be looking at around mid-September or so bid letting on this project. We would start construction probably then in October, and our completion date would be about middle of June of 2024. So about a 10-month window for construction here. So we've talked a lot with the design professionals about kind of the staging of the project and what happens to our operations here while construction is underway. And they've reached out to some prospective bidders and gotten their input, and based again on that and their professional opinion as well as our input here at the office, we think it would be better for the convenience and safety factor for the public if we were not here operationally at this building and we were relocated somewhere else. And that's also been kind of the feedback that we've gotten from prospective bidders is that if they did not have to stage the project and work around the public and our city operations, that would translate into more favorable bids on their end as well. So we've looked around the community at locations where we could temporarily relocate our operations. One has worked out really well. We're not ready for that yet at this point, but would be the former TQ Technologies location at the Pritchard's Innovation Center. We've gone out, the staff's gone out, looked at that. I've gone out and looked at it. It actually lends itself really, really well to our operations for sure on this 10-month time frame basis. So still negotiating out with the owner what that lease, that short-term lease agreement looks like, but that would definitely be our preferred location to relocate during construction operations. And I would just say, just in meeting with the owners and their representatives out there, have been very accommodating about what our needs might be and how they could help us out through this transition. So definitely appreciate that. And of course, this chambers, the council chambers, there's not much here for the project that we propose for renovations or upgrades here beyond mostly some technological improvements and things like that. So this would remain where we would still have our council meetings during that construction period. Also, we have the municipal election coming up that we have to be mindful of because, of course, this is a voting precinct, so has to be operational at that time. And then, of course, any large meetings that we would have, we would hold them here in the chambers, just kind of shuffle around some furniture, but we could still accommodate that. So all in all, I think we would be able to continue to utilize this location here for our meetings and so forth. So I don't have anything further in terms of an introduction. Scott Smead with Berglund and Cram is going to review, as I mentioned, the preliminary design. The one, Nelson's been part of this process. We've been working on this for quite a while, and I think this is probably, he'll probably correct me here, but this might be about iteration number 9, I think, or maybe it's probably 14, by the time we finally felt like we had gotten where we wanted to be with this. So he's going to review that design with you, and then the cost estimate and schedule and so forth. So any questions of me?
Question for Scott. Thank you, Scott. Review of proposed plans, excuse me, schedule and cost estimate. Scott Smead, AIA, Berglund and Cram, welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to present this to you today. So I think one of the things that we were challenged with was, number one, the safety considerations. So we've got people coming in the building that have no direct separation from city staff. And so that's the number one thing we wanted to look at. We also have to look at staff efficiency. If we're going to reorganize the space, how can we make it work better for everyone who is working in the environment? And then we have some comfort issues. The administration area right now is typically a little warm in the summer and a little cool in the winter time. So we need to be able to address the comfort level of the people in the building. So I'm just going to point out a few things relative to the existing building that we looked at. And the first one I kind of hit on is that when you come in the front entry, the person coming in to talk to anybody in the city meets at this reception area. There's an open pathway that goes to everyone's office around here. If somebody comes in for a meeting, a lot of times they'll come in, they'll run through the space to get back into the conference room, or they'll come back through the back corridor to come in. And so we really see that as a security issue as to how you deal with that. I made a comment about the heating and cooling conditions. There's a perimeter heat loop mechanically that runs around the entire building to provide heat in the wintertime. And it doesn't keep up based on the windows that are there and the space right now. Even though there is an air handling unit in the mechanical room here that provides air for that, it too is tremendously undersized for that need. The other issue that we've got to deal with here is that in this whole area, unlike the space we're in now, the ceiling and roof structure is substantially lower than this. And so it really becomes a challenge to look at what do you do mechanically to feed the spaces they need for the air volume that they need. So go ahead. So this is the current configuration. Scott's right, we've been at this a while, and so this is honestly the number 11 scheme, and I think we've hit pretty darn close to picking up all of the pieces that will make this a much better situation for everybody. So we have moved the front reception area more into the center of the building, utilizing the existing openings that were there. We're opening this up a little bit. You enter into a enclosed reception area. Staff then has the ability to be behind this glazing surface here. Everything else is closed away from somebody coming in there. We have been able to reconfigure the space. Originally, there were 5 offices, what's over there right now. The reconfiguration, we took a little bit of the office manager area because it was mostly a pass-through to get to the current offices. So by working off of a corridor here, and everybody can interact off this corridor, we were able to actually get 6 offices. So we've got the ability to provide for, if you don't have the additional staff at this time, you've got the ability to have a separate conference area or some additional storage or something else that can be utilized for the short term. And then as staff grows, then you've got the ability to take them on. So one of the big pieces to this was pulling the conference room from what was back in the back of the building to right up front. That allows people to come in, staff can actually see who's coming in, they can be led in through into the conference room, and they don't have access to the back hallway, so it's a more secure situation. One of the other big pieces was right now the vault is right here, and we're going to leave that in its current location. One of the things that we found was that from an office staff use, there's a lot of activity that goes in and out of that vault area. So it made sense from a flow standpoint that if everybody's offices worked around it, it was better because they all had access equally to that space. What we did decide was that based on the amount of things that are stored in that vault area right now, that could be simplified and old records could be eliminated and shredded. And so we're actually picking up a little bit of space and using it more efficiently. And we have enough room that we can take the IT closet and move it into that vault area also, making it a much more secure environment for your infrastructure, for your IT. One of the other pieces we did here was for all the staff, if you ever should have an issue, you have, right now there is a door coming out of Scott's office. In this scenario, we wouldn't have to go through the office to get out. We'd have direct access from any of the staff in an emergency to get out of the building. The other piece is that even though we've got some
Just
internal...
going to add that
yeah.
I kind of hate to give that door up because about midday I sneak out that and go take a nap somewhere. So I kind of hate to share that door with anybody.
Now it's going to keep him honest because everybody will know when he's in and out. The other thing that we've got a couple of internal offices here, and what we're doing there is utilizing some window walls in these offices, so they have actual direct view out through the windows that are existing there now. So we've incorporated that. We actually, in one of the earlier schemes, looked at flipping these around. It just started to get a little cumbersome, and we added more circulation space than we needed. Okay, go ahead. So this is kind of a side-by-side view of the existing floor plan here, the new configuration here. I think that's probably the key there. One of the things that we're not doing is adding any additional space to the building. So we're using the confines of the exterior walls as they are, try to keep the cost down, looking at it as a true remodeling project rather than a project that's adding square footage. Right, go ahead. So, I'll take you through just some images of where we're at right now, and we are still working through, I will say, the color and material process. So we're narrowing in, but this is where we're at right now. So the first picture there that you saw was coming in through the main door, and then to the right-hand side there is the reception area. Go ahead to the next one. And so we've got the ability to have the two people that are sitting at the front right now still sitting at the front, have full visibility out into that space. We've also created a lower area in the center of that it would be handicap accessible. And then the openness, I think, is part of the key. I think one of the things we were charged with was making something that was very vibrant and very public-centered. And so we're working on that color piece right now to keep it as vibrant as we possibly can. Go ahead. So from inside the area for staff, this is where I was talking about visibility. And so we have the ability to see outside through these existing windows on anybody that comes up from the front of the building. We've got this large expanse of security glazing that is here where the people come in. The conference room is actually over here, so you have visual to the conference room. So the staff that's working here has really good idea of what's happening within the building at all times. Okay. And then this is just an image of that conference room and the amount of glass that we've got scheduled for that right now. There was a lot of discussion early on about to what level do we need to maintain security all the way through, and do we not have glazing or not, So I think the final decision was we could always take it out, but from a visual standpoint, it really opens up the space and helps with that a little bit. So one of the tasks we were really looking at hard here too was the budget. And so, excuse me, initially Scott commented that I think the original hope was that we could probably do something for $350,000 or something like that. And the more we got into the project, the more we really looked at it, the total reconfiguration just didn't make that possible. I think it was going to be really quickly gone in, $400,000, $500,000 just to get the reception area secure. So we went through the full exercise of determining how can we make this space better and what does that number really work out to be. So in this case, we are looking at a price to do that of construction somewhere in the 800 to 860,000 range for that phase one, or that main area here. And if I'm still carrying some numbers in there, like a 5% contingency and fees and things like that. And so with those numbers, we're somewhere in that, 913 to 981,000, kind of all in for that part of the remodeling. I think then the other thing we talked about was that there are some other areas in this space that we could do some updates to. One of those is in that existing lobby area. We could actually look at doing some new ceilings, some new paint, kind of upgrading that a little bit. One of the things that is going to take place right now, you have your plan rack in the admin office, and we are talking about bringing that plan rack out into the lobby area. So it's not people coming in to check out the plans and look at them in the space. They'd be able to do that in the lobby area. And you still have supervision from administrative staff. So we've got a little bit of money in there for potential remodeling of that space. The other item that Scott noted was in the council chamber here, the only real construction work that I'd see, and we've got some higher numbers in here now based on initial discussions, but I think those will go down. The big key right now is addressing the temporary table that's here and potentially doing something more built-in that works with the front podium that you have right now. So that's a consideration. We've also talked about remodeling in the toilet rooms. So we know we've got some air issues where we don't have the proper ventilation in those spaces. And so we're doing that, potentially getting a countertop and baby changing stations in the restrooms, so it's not just a wall-hung sink, to make them a little bit more amenable to the people coming in. So there's a little bit of money that we've got in here for that. And then another piece that we were looking at was right now, as Scott said, he's got a window here in his office. We're actually looking at adding another window here. Where we're losing the door, we're already going to add a window. And then we're looking at adding 2 new windows on the north side of the FAR office. And so all of those other items, we kind of said, if we have a budget of close to $1 million here going forward, what do we do when the prices come in? Can we make some decisions? And we said, well, let's take a look at these pieces as potential alternates. So if the bids come in good, we can kind of pick and choose the pieces that make the most sense, and we've exposed the costs, and we can kind of move forward that way. So.
Question.
Yep.
Why would you add a window on the north side of Scott's office?
Just was adding some symmetry. I mean, like you were saying, I mean, that's not really a make or break item
No,
on
and
the project.
and we can do it like a per window item, right? So we
It's in the
start looking at
wintertime
it.
with a heater on in there.
Yeah, that's true.
So one of the things that we are doing is, like I said, the existing mechanical system can't keep up with the building loads. And so what we're looking at is a new VRF system. And so that allows each office space and each room to have its own individual control, self-contained units that run in those rooms. So we've got the ability to, on a north side or a south side, a window or a non-window office, we can control the temperature and be able to bring that to be where it needs to be. So one of the other pieces that this budget doesn't really address, and Scott hit on it at the start, is related to phasing. And so the original discussions that we had up to 5 different construction phases to be able to get the work done and keep everybody in place and functioning from a city standpoint. And while we would like to be able to get the construction done in that May to June timeline of next year, by multiple phases, you have to start and stop, move people, and you start having a huge impact as to the time it takes and the cost. So the numbers that we've got here presented are really based off of doing everything at one time. When you start moving it out and looking at the timelines to do even 2 phases, and it is possible, it's a little convoluted, and it really does affect staff, both from a temperature standpoint, because once we start taking down the mechanical system, we have essentially no heat, so we'd have to do temporary heat. There's costs associated with that, especially for winter work. So we really need to think hard about, do we phase it or do we not phase it? Because that, from a cost standpoint, we're probably adding about 15 to 20% on the project to do it in multiple phases. From a timeline standpoint, I'm estimating right now we're probably adding about 3.5 to 4 months to the project to do the phase work. So it's a big consideration. Any questions? Yeah, I'm sure you have some.
The emergency alert is still with the folks up front?
Yeah.
So Scott's, and for the rest of those folks there, the so-called emergency hatch is just turned around, put on the other side there.
Correct.
So that all
Correct.
can take it.
So everybody can egress. Yep.
I never subscribed to that women and children first philosophy. I took myself first.
And now you see why the process has taken the time it has.
I've asked this before, but there's no insulation in any of those walls there, I would guess.
I think there is some there were some walls, I think, as Scott said, that there was some remodeling done that added some carpeting and finishes, and I think there was some insulation done in the perimeter, on the exterior walls here. So, yeah. But it's a little strange because the wall is insulated down to a certain point, and then the heater runs from that point to the floor. And so there really isn't anything along that edge. And so that is something we'd be doing as part of this project too, is if that heater system is gone that we don't need, we would be insulating the rest of those walls.
Scott, this is a good example because it was done in here as well. So
Correct.
that's what,
Yep.
to insulate it somewhat from the cinder block.
Yep.
Scott, you had mentioned the upfront area with these numbers. Does the numbers you're proposing, is that all of what you're showing us?
Yes.
And then you would do the interior offices would have real walls, not
Correct.
just what we have over there now?
Yep, correct, yeah, because all of the walls, well, if you go back to where the two are together, maybe, right there, this wall right here is a temporary wall that's in there right now. It's a partition panel, so it's not even a sound isolated wall. I mean, that's another point of why this doesn't make a lot of sense the way it works, is that with all the offices opening out and no isolation here, any loud discussions that happen here or anything that happens in an office bleeds out into the other areas. And so there's a way to really quiet that down also. Yeah.
During working hours, there's only one entrance into the office. Those double doors out here will still be locked. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, because we can control this
Right.
to keep that from happening. You can come in, we'll have an electronic system to get in for staff into the space, and then nobody else will be able to go that way.
Well, Scott, I think one of the things that I really like about this plan is, for one, like you mentioned, by not doing it in phases, we save a considerable amount of money, right?
I really believe that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's easier on our staff, and we get it done quicker, so I think that makes a lot of sense. But I think the most important thing to me about it is the security upgrades for our staff, particularly our upfront people who deal with the public on a regular basis, but not just them, all of our staff that work in these offices. And I think even though, they're great with the public, occasionally there might be an issue where someone might be upset, and I think just their security is very important. So I think this solves that issue to a large degree. Wouldn't you agree?
I would. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the solution we've got here.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I like is moving that conference room from the back to the front, because as you say, for any kind of meetings where we invite people in, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have them walk through a common area clear to the back. And so I think there's just a lot of attractive features to this plan, and I appreciate the work you've put into it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Somebody's going to hate me for this, but you got to have some context for this to really have some meat. So let me give you a little history. A few years ago, well, actually a little over 60, the city hall was above the fire station up on 4th Street. The north end of the Clear Lake Bank and Trust building wasn't there. And you walked up somewhere close to 1,000 steps, and you were in the city hall above the fire station. So this building happened in 1965. And the predecessor on this particular property was at that time something called Lake Lumber. It was one of three, count them, three downtown lumber yards at the time, right across from the grain elevator, which is where Charlie Brown is right now. So we were truly an ag community in downtown Clear Lake at that time. And my grandmother's neighbor, his name's on the plaque out here, Arlie Eddy, was one of the councilmen that voted this building. So even though it's got some issues, it served us pretty well for 60 years. So it's time for an upgrade, especially since Scott just turns blue in his office every day. You visit him and everyone else is sweating, but he's got his comforter on from home, and he's got his space heater going. So I guess if we want to keep him healthy, this project is critical. So we'll probably have to move forward on it. Anyway, I'm hoping to give you a little history lesson and wake some of you up. And this has been a long one, so way to hang in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott, appreciate it. 7, interim chief police report, and interim Chief Colby is not here, but Lieutenant Goody is. Welcome, Lieutenant.
Thanks, Mayor Council. I just have a couple things. Coming off another busy weekend with the Car Cruise Car Show. Many got a unexpected car wash on Friday night, but that seemed to not stop anyone, and overall it went very well. We had no major incidents the whole weekend, just our traffic things as usual that stem from that. One open dispatcher spot yet. We're doing interviews, I believe, this week. Moving forward on that. And then we're still working on our one vacant officer position. Conditional offer has been given for that, and hopefully that'll be in the next couple weeks. We'll have somebody hired. And that is all I have.
I saw those 4-page at least diagrams and what shall be done and what shall not be done for the bash as well as for a classic car. Each of those 2 different really reports that were made up ahead of time, and I was pleased to see that. I believe Scott saw those too. Well organized
Yes,
by
and-
the lieutenants and the interim chief, so.
Yes, makes everything run smoothly.
Oh, boy, yeah, big weekends like that in small-town USA really is needed, and they were both, well, the whole summer's been a good summer, and thanks to the police department for that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Public Work Director's Report, Jeremy Kornberg. Supervisor, update 2023 street resurface project, South Lakeview Drive.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Yeah, so the street resurfacing project in the north of Maine area, all the resurfacing has been substantially done. I think they finished up this morning on First Avenue South, so I think they do have to go back and do the box out concrete work, et cetera, uncover any water valves that were paved over, but that will take place over the next couple weeks as we do punch list items on that project. They also have begun the work on the alley that is part of that project down by Lake Otto off of Buddy Holly. The removals have been done, the storm sewer improvements have done. They've done a lift course and possibly a second course. The paving of the asphalt portion will be done first, and then they're actually going to come back and do the concrete approach afterwards. So, but that should also hopefully be done in the next week or so. As well, as Heartland was in town, they did some work last week on South Lakeview Drive for that overlay project. They came in and completed that. I think it was Thursday they were done, possibly. So looks pretty good. We got a couple manhole adjustments probably to do now that that's over, but pretty minor stuff there. So beyond that, obviously car crews, all that stuff. So with them doing a lot of paving in the week, we got a lot of cleanup Friday afternoon, trying to keep everything and all them car folks happy. So beyond that, just normal maintenance. We have been, as you know, we're doing some of that work on the ORC shelter that was budgeted for this year out at the soccer fields. So a lot of the prep work's been done there. Footings are in, base course. Hopefully we'll be able to get some of the pad, hopefully all the pad work done by maybe the end of next week. So, and then the structure will be following behind that. So that is moving forward as well. Beyond that, I'm not really sure if you have any questions.
Quick question.
Sure.
New post in the outdoor rec area along the walk-in trail.
Yeah. That they just put up?
Yeah.
I think the Parks was working with the library on that as part
Okay.
of their story walk. I think they did it at Central Gardens last year, but they moved it out to the ORC
All right.
this year. So
Great. Yeah, I just saw him putting the post in when I was riding my bike out there the other day and was curious. Thank you.
And please convey to the Public Works folks that, this has been a summer where they've really had to hustle to move barricades here, take them away, take them down, take them up, put them all over, I mean, how you kept that straight is beyond me, but well done in cooperation with the PD and the fire department and the water department. We've all worked very, very well together. Summer isn't over yet, but to this point, we've done very well.
on Maine, and then that's been so. No, it's been pretty good. Like I said, in the past, just the meetings beforehand and prior to the events helps a lot. That way, it doesn't come the day of the event or the day before, and there's a lot of questions on exactly what anybody wants. We have it all ironed out before then, and Colby and the PD's been really good about that as well, meeting and the people holding the events. So it's worked out real well.
I talked to Jim Jackson this morning, with the cleanup each time is really, that's a tough one. And especially this past weekend, it was a little tougher, I guess. And I give him a lot of credit. I spoke with him this morning, but that was, yeah, it's been a great summer. So
Yeah, the
thank you.
Parks guys, they get in there sometimes before anybody even sees them and get stuff
Yeah,
cleaned up. So
yeah,
they do a great job as well. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Under Mayor's report, first ask Chad to come up with North Iowa Corridor. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and appreciate the meeting tonight. It just everyone, all the leadership, the community support, the people that make this place special. We were full display tonight. The Bash at the Lake was an amazing experience. I was able to drag some family from Central Iowa up here for that, and just the kids had a blast. So thank you guys for the amazing work you did on that. And then with the museum, I got 6 kids that'll be over there all the time if you guys if we can get that pulled up. So appreciate the hard work that everyone puts into these things. It is really exciting. And on that note, just want to make sure everyone's aware of the Rural Development, North Iowa Rural Development Summit we have coming up August 17th. That's going to be 11 until 4 o'clock that day. Great lineup of speakers. We have Dr. David Cole is the keynote, and then he's going to lead panel discussions with Debbie Durham, Teresa Greenfield from USDA, and Jeff Plague, the Superintendent of Banking for Iowa. And then we have a local panel with Dave Steffens, Emily Schmidt, and Dr. Schultz from NIAC. So it's going to be a really good full day, trying to get as many leaders from across the region in there as we can. I think as of the update last week, we had about 200 signed up, so excited for that at the Mason City Arena. But will be a day full of information, and again, just trying to bring people together. How do we lead our communities? How do we make North Iowa the best place to live, and bring business, and raise our families? So really excited for that one. Also, I know Scott has this on his list. The DOT Commission is going to be in town, actually is in town today, and we'll have their meeting tomorrow right over here at the Fairfield. So looking forward to hearing Scott's update to them, and I know Mason City is doing an update, and then I'll have a corridor and kind of general update on some of the things that we have going on and the priorities for infrastructure that we're seeing across the region. So excited for that. Also, I think it's also on the August 17th, we have the Teacher Appreciation Breakfast over at the schools. The Chamber always puts that on, and we go and we'll be in support on that. I think we usually have about 20 or more businesses that show up and help show the teachers' appreciation for everything with the new school year coming up. Also, last week we had Representative Hinson in town, so appreciate Scott and the mayor and a couple of our board members taking the time to meet with her, and again, got to show off the boulevard, nice new restaurant. She stayed at the Fairfield Inn that night. So it was just a good opportunity to catch up with her. We are also getting a DC trip scheduled for the North Iowa contingent. We haven't done that since COVID. The last time we tried to go, we got snowed out, and so is it 4 years? It's been quite a while. 5? Yeah. It's been quite a while. So we used to do that every year, every other year at least, and so picking that back up, trying to set the dates. That'll be November, early December, to get that set up. Also, today was the first day for the new COO at Mercy, Chad Bohr. Hoping to meet him pretty soon and get connected with him, and he'll be leading the North Iowa Mercy One, so looking forward to that. And also, just this last week, we about 2 weeks ago, we got a call from IEDA that they had a biotech company that was interested in North Iowa, needed about 10 to 20 acres along rail, and they wanted to visit us in a week. So we actually had a site visit this past week. Went really well. It's a large project, over $100 million project, and about 50 jobs. And it was incredibly encouraging, a perfect fit for our resources, our ability, our capacities, and what they were looking for. So a very early stage project, so a long way to go on it, but it was pretty exciting opportunity to be at the front of the line for them. So we'll continue to work on that and various other things that are going. But I know Scott's got a long list, so I'll stop there. Let's get any questions.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate that. Our thoughts and prayers tonight and tomorrow certainly are with the DeVries, Jared DeVries family. And now, Council, we need to adjust the Monday, September 4th, 2023 regular council meeting to Tuesday, September 5th, 2023 at 6 p.m. due to Labor Day being on September 4th. So I need a motion, please, to approve that.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dana, seconded by Bennett, that we approve the adjustment from September 4th to September 5th for the regular council meeting in September 1st one. Motion, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. City Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to run through these really quick. As Chad alluded to just a moment ago, I just wanted to make you aware that tomorrow, 8:15, the Iowa Department of Transportation Commission is holding their meeting here in Clear Lake, holding it out at the Fairfield Inn and Conference Center. So Nelson will be giving a welcome to Clear Lake in that regard. Then I'll be talking about some of the transportation-related projects that we've gotten, both federal and state funding to complete here. Of course, the one that we just recently got, the RAISE grant, we're only 2 cities in the entire state, and we're only about there were 1,200 and some applications, and they funded about 100 in the United States and in Commonwealth. So, we were in rare company to get that. So I'll talk a little bit about that project. East Maine, we got quite a bit of state and federal support on that project, so I'll be talking about that one, as well as the Emerald Edge project along the highway, where we worked with the DOT to make some improvements there as well. So just wanted, I know several of you are going to come to that, so appreciate that. Also wanted to report, you're all aware that our Wellness Center Director, Mr. Adam Long, is going back to Kansas City. He's actually going back to his previous job, so we're kind of in a short-term planning situation there to plan for his departure there. So we've got a good staff there that is going to carry us through here into the interim. So we have some longer-term strategies about what we want to do forward, going forward with his spot. But his last day with us will be August 11th, so a very short notice. So we're kind of, again, doing the best we can with our short-term contingency plan to get a little more stabilized out there, if you will, and so go forward with a new search some point here in the future. I want to point out again our new Director of Finance and Administrative Services. You're all aware, Jacob Widman is going to be starting with us on September 11th. And I'm just absolutely beyond the pale thrilled to be able to bring him on board. Just an extraordinarily high caliber person. He came for the Bash at the Lake event as well. It was something very important to his family, but just he was the Director of Finance and HR Director for the City of Lamar's. So for us to be able to bring somebody with his background, he's got an MBA from University of South Dakota. It just happened to be Clear Lake is right midway between his family in Sioux City and his wife's family in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. So it's 3 hours either direction for them. So it just was geographically a perfect fit for him. But and I'm going to mention Chad. We always hear his economic development updates and reports, but this guy's very helpful to me in a lot of other areas, and I thank you for all your help with recruiting Jacob to this spot. But Chad and his wife also had spent considerable amount of time with Jacob and his wife, talking all the good things about Clear Lake, and the school that Chad's kids go to is a school that these folks are very, very interested in, and one of the deciding factors in coming here was that Christian school for them. So, but I appreciate you taking the time that you did and your wife did, because that certainly helped us in that regard. So. It was indeed, because I was keeping track. So Chad and I kind of monitor all these things, and he kept texting me. He says, "Okay, it's 11:30. I'm going in to break this thing up," and it started a little after 8 o'clock. So, but that was a good sign. So thank you again. Also, we gonna go out, get some proposals for some work at the band shell or down there, and notice that there's definitely some improvements that need to take place there. It's been painted. It's that EFS material, so you got to paint that about every 5 or 6 years. So, and there's some stuff on the inside, and so we just generally want to get a proposal to look at some better improvements going forward for that for next year as well, so we can work through that at budget time. Real quick update, in the interest of everyone's time, on South 15th Street, Everybody Plays Park and Playground, inclusive playground project. A lot of concrete work has been done and poured. The steel's in place. If you've driven by, you've seen that for the restroom facility out there in the shelter. They are bringing an extra crew on to do some more work, plus they have an extra concrete crew coming on. The splash pad plumbing is in, so a lot of work is happening really quickly out there, and just exciting to see that taking place. And also, Mike fought all this time to get those bump crossings up there at North 20th Street for the railroad. But the way the railroad works, they'll probably have to stay up there for about another 2 years. But we are going to have a meeting with the railroad to talk about that rather rough crossing. Actually, we had a meeting with them to talk about a different crossing that Jeremy was involved in, and that's a long story. But started having a conversation about, well, rather than that one, let's go over to 20th and focus on that one because that's so rough, but we are going to meet with them and see what we've got to do, get an application in the queue, but I'm probably positive those bump signs, the way they move, are going to be there for another 3 years, so it's money well spent.
Good to know. And I'm sure all the people with those low-slung classic cars appreciated crawling over that thing.
So for those of you that don't know, Mike brought that up all the time. When are we going to get bump signs? So Prison Industries is backed up, so it took about a year to get the bump sign, so we want to get some more good out of them for them.
Technically, the sign says rough crossing.
Okay.
Little beyond a bump.
That's all I've got.
Thank you. I want to recognize Aaron Ruggles is here, our librarian who runs the best small-town library in north central Iowa. So thanks for being here, Aaron, as well. Anything